Welcome to the Mom as Well podcast, where we are digging deep into the gifts and the gaps of foster and adoptive parenting. I'm Tara Hutton, and I'm glad you're here. Mama's Well. Yes, she is. Hey, everybody. It's Mother's Day. It's Sunday. You don't normally hear from me on a Sunday, but happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to you. Happy Mother's Day to me. It's our special day. And in honor of us, in honor of Mother's Day, I wanted to talk about something that is, I think, can be a real issue with mamas, especially us mamas who are doing some extraordinary care of some extraordinary kids. And so I got to thinking, I got a text earlier in the week from a friend who's in the trenches. She's an adoptive parent to 2 children with some serious medical needs and lots of emotional needs, and she's tired. And her text said, and honestly, I think we can all relate to this. If you can't relate to this, you might not be being honest, one, or you're just at the wrong podcast. So let me read what she says. She says, I daydreamed about needing an appendectomy in the context of, well, that would be 3 days in the hospital when I just couldn't be needed by anyone else. And someone would have to figure out the kids' stuff and the work stuff, and that would give me a week to recover. I think I'm in real need for a break. And I could totally relate. You know what? I was reading. My guest today is actually not sitting in the chair. She's in this book, and it's Joyce Rupp. And I've been reading this book. I posted about it on my Facebook page a week ago. But it's called Boundless Compassion. And so I want to talk. I want you to hear what Joyce says about compassion and what she calls compassion fatigue. Actually, let me just read this. No one can keep pouring out large amounts of compassion without eventually becoming emptied of mental, emotional, and physical energy, unless they are also nurturing and replenishing that love by attentive self-compassion. Without it, persons whose work or life situations require them to tend to the suffering of others will find their motivation hindered by negativity and their ability to care trapped in what is commonly termed compassion fatigue or secondary traumatic stress disorder. Man, when I read that, I was like, yes, that's what I have. I have that. And when I read the signs, let me go on to read, numerous authors have described specific signs of compassion fatigue. Some of these include constant negativity, misdirected anger and blaming, calloused indifference, taking on a martyr attitude, arrogance and hostility, weariness that never leaves, regardless of sleep, physical ailments without specific cause, such as backaches, stomach problems, headaches, anxiety, and nervous issues, and a growing lack of enthusiasm and kindness. We can be quite sure compassion fatigue is setting in when some aspect of our body, mind, or spirit continually rebels or resists vigorously in extending care to others. So, on this Mother's Day, I want to give you permission to consider that you might be struggling. If you're not now, then maybe you have. I know I have. If I'm really honest, I struggle, and I can tell because I start to resent. I start to just be frustrated, and it starts to feel really mundane and boring and endless. And so I know when that happens, I got to figure out a plan. And so what do we do? What do we do? I think it starts with, we have to start offering ourselves the same compassion and care that we long to give our kids. I mean, it sounds really simple, but it's hard. It's challenging because you get in a rut and you think, you know what, if I don't do it, no one else will. And then the shaming starts when you start to, you're falling down. You are experiencing these things, this blaming and indifference and martyr attitude, and then, the whole shaming. What kind of parent am I? Really is tough. And so we have to take care of our whole selves. We have to take care of our mind and our body and our spirit. I'm trying to give you permission to do that today. I want to give myself permission to do that today. So how do we do it? I mean, the simple answer, we know a lot of this, like get enough sleep. I know for me, my husband, like he can stay up later than and I'm not a night owl. And so going to bed, it's a little bit harder for me to go to bed when he's still up watching a show, but that's what I need. I need that. One thing that's not, we think like, we need time for ourselves, but some of us have time for ourselves is morning time and some is evening. Some people stay up later at night, and that's great for them. You do need time for yourself. For me, I need to go to bed early so that I can get up early, because that's the time of the day that I'm fresh and I enjoy my morning time. So, but getting the right amount of sleep, whether that's going to bed earlier like it is for me, or sleeping in a little bit later if you're able, getting enough sleep, eating healthy foods. When I'm struggling, I just want comfort food, right? But that's not really nurturing to me. So eating the right food, drinking the right things. A lot of times, it would feel good to just drink margaritas for the evening, escape, right? But then the next day I don't feel good. I don't feel, my head hurts, or I didn't sleep well because of that. So you have to ask yourself, like, what is really nurturing for me? And then do those things. Engaging in social relationships, having a community of people just one or two people that understand what it is that you're going through, what you're walking through on a day-to-day basis. Connecting spiritually. Like for me, what that looks like is knowing that I'm not in control and God is, and I need to connect with him deeply. And I don't mean Bible studies, every week or places to show up. And I'm talking about a deep connection, a spiritual connection, one that's between him and I. And that takes time and awareness. And I like to do that early in the morning, but I need to do it all day long, when I'm struggling. Those are kind of the easy things. I mean, we all know exercise, right? We all know those things. Those are the things that everybody points to when we're struggling. Well, are you eating well? Are you getting enough sleep? And are you eating the right food? And those are all really important, but there's some kind of more hidden ones, more ways that we need to take care of ourselves that we don't necessarily think of. And that is creating some awareness on how we treat ourselves. How do we comfort ourselves when we're hurting? Do I say, and the answer to this is yes, do I say things like, well, you shouldn't feel like that. Come on, get over it, move on, stop whining, you chose this, let's move on. Or do we say things like, yeah, that's really tough. I know this is hard. And what could I do to help? Do I say that to myself? That would be helpful if I did. Sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't. This is a practice. And then, what kinds of judgments are we making about ourselves? Am I telling myself I'm lazy if I sit down for a few minutes or even an hour in the afternoon when my body is tired or my mind is tired? Am I telling myself I'm lazy if I don't have dinner prepared at 5:00 every night when we're all getting hungry? What are the judgments that I'm holding over myself? And these are all ways that we have to learn to care for ourselves. It's not just about sleeping and eating and exercise. It's about how we care for our spirit and our heart, just like we would our children, just like we would our best friends. And then this is a biggie. What expectations am I holding for myself that make it really hard to measure up? Are my expectations that my laundry is always done, that my house is always clean, that dinner is always ready, that I never miss a workout, that I never eat French fries? I mean, I don't know, that I never get frustrated with my kid. Those are expectations that I'm not going to be able to live up to, and I need to examine those expectations. So, today of all days, again, this is our day. This is our day. This is a day for a decision to be made, and that is permission. I'm going to give myself permission. I'm going to give myself permission to care for myself like I would care for my friend, like I would care for my child or my husband, the way that I want to be able to care, but I cannot do that. I can't care for my children if I'm not caring for myself. So, let me read this quote in closing. Again, this is from our guest today, Joyce Rupp. This is a great book. This quote, though, is from a man named Robert Wicks from a book, or I guess it's a book called Riding the Dragon. It says, and this just something to keep in mind. The self is limited. It has only so much energy. If it is not renewed, then depletion will take place. Too often, we don't avail ourselves to the type of activities that truly renew us. When this occurs, we run a greater risk that we will unnecessarily lose perspective and burn out. Man, I totally get that. I want so badly to be a loving, compassionate, nurturing mom to my children, to my husband, to my friends. I cannot do that when I am completely burned out and exhausted. And just as a reminder, the kids that we are bringing into our care, that we are loving and nurturing, they come with a lot of issues, and it's not easy at times. And so we need to be mindful of that, saying things to ourselves like, well, we should be able to do that. We should be able to always get this right. It's just not true. And I haven't met anyone on this podcast who would say otherwise. And so Mother's Day, happy Mother's Day. Do something good for yourself. Remember especially those 3 things that I said at the end, becoming aware of how we treat ourselves, becoming aware of how we comfort ourselves, becoming aware of the judgments and the expectations that we place on ourselves. That is self-care, and that is self-compassion. So let's practice, and I'll see you next week. Mama's well. Yes, she